Well, originally it was called novel coronavirus. And so they thought, it's sort of lengthy to call it novel coronavirus. And also, because regular old coronavirus is a cause of the common cold, they wanted to separate it out so people knew. So COVID means corona virus disease, COVID dash 19, because it was 2019 when it was identified. So COVID 19, coronavirus disease 19. SARS is also a coronavirus. And so it's not exactly the same. It's a little different. SARS contagion wasn't only respiratory droplets, but as far as we can tell right now, COVID 19 seems to be mainly respiratory droplets. But they're related, they're like very close cousins. The vast majority of people who die from coronavirus are older or have pre existing conditions. People with lung disease, people with diabetes, people who are on chemotherapy or have cancer, anything that immunosuppresses. Almost unheard of in children. There have only been a handful of cases on the whole planet in anybody under 16. So apparently, kids can shake this one off. It's just the older folk that don't do so good. And of course, smokers. I've talked about that before, that the areas where coronavirus has been the most harsh have very high instances of smoking, especially among men. Asthma is also a problem because it's a lung disease. Anything related to you not being able to clear mucus from your lungs or be able to oxygenate your lungs regularly, those sort of diseases, coronavirus takes advantage of that because if it can get down in the lung, it starts to replicate and that can kill. In terms of heart disease, it is considered a pre-existing condition. If you have a history of heart failure, like the heart disease is so severe that it causes congestion in the lungs, that's a situation that the coronavirus, COVID-19, could take advantage of. Well, different surfaces, it lasts different amount of times. Cardboard is like a day. The air is like 3 hours. Steel and plastic can be 2 or 3 days. It's possible it would last even longer. However, fresh air, sunlight, ultraviolet light, if you have it to expose things, those things clean it right off. Soap and water is great. The Lysol spray, all these things decrease the contagion of the viral particles. But yeah, it can stick on surfaces for days at a time. You've probably heard the 14-day thing. 14 days is about the time that 99.99% of people get the disease. They have had a couple of cases where people went like 21 days before developing the disease, which is really a long time. But for most people, 2 weeks is a lock. Also, just like other viruses, the main bit of contagion is probably 3 to 5 days. And after about day 9, about 95% of people will already have their infection by day 9. And, maybe 5 days after that, you're really not contagious anymore. So that's 14 days. And basically, as soon as it's identified, that meant you had to probably acquire it at least 5 days before, 3 days before. So you can sort of subtract that if you want to. So you could actually spend 11 days in isolation or quarantine. But really, if you do 14, that's the safest for everybody. There's only been a handful of cases of children under 16 developing severe cases of COVID-19. To most children, it seems to be like the cold and just a common cold. And so the danger really isn't to children very much. In Sweden, they decided that they would keep all the schools open up until age 16. So all the way through high school, the Swedes still have their schools open. And bizarrely, or not bizarrely, the deaths in Sweden are mainly adults. Yeah, so the adults aren't faring that well, but the kids are okay. And we probably could have kept our schools open in the United States. The one problem, though, is that if a kid has coronavirus and he is a carrier, he might go home where dad who smokes cigarettes is, and all of a sudden he's killed his father, because that can happen. Headache can be a symptom because, especially when people have the 15 to 20% of people who have actual significant coronavirus or COVID-19 infections, those people usually have fever. And one of the main things that fever does is give people headaches. And H1N1, which is the the swine flu that caused an epidemic a number of years ago. That headache is like really strong in that one. And regular influenza, some people get headaches, but when they have H1N1, they most always have a headache. So with COVID-19, headache can be there. Vomiting can be there. Diarrhea can be there. Those are less common symptoms. The most common is the sort of nasal congestion and a little tickly throat or sore throat, and then later shortness of breath, chest pain.